My name is Sylvena Mayer, and I have always lived here in the area of North Fork, and I have lived here going on 62 years, which I'm very proud of. And all my family, my grandparents and their parents before them, on my mother and father's mother's side, had lived here in this area, and they, on my father's side and my mother's people, belong to the North Fork Mono tribe here. And but my father, he was a half-breed. Foreigner came up here in this area and married my grandmother, and they had a large family, and therefore my father was a half-breed and my mother was a full-blooded Mono, and that makes me 3/4 Mono, and the 4th is of the other nationality. And I have never lived anywhere else but up here. And I can remember when my father had cows, the mountain ridge you see over in here, the Peckinpah. My father ran his cattle, but of course they only allowed us to have a certain amount of cattle. And then later on in life, I grew, like I said, I never lived anywhere else, and I met my husband and married in 47. And then my people finally found out or realized that we were slowly losing our culture, and so we had a few that came up with the idea that we should have an Indian museum to preserve our culture and our beautiful Indian baskets, and maybe hope that someone would get in and learn how to make the baskets. And so we built our museum, and we started in preparing our organization in '65, and it took us almost 7 years to build our Indian museum there in North Fork. And I have worked all through the beginning of working toward this museum, and I am now also a lifetime member of this Sierra Mono Museum, and I'm very proud of it. And every day that the doors are open, all my volunteer work and time that I gave in helping to raise funds for this museum, I consider that is my pay. And so I hope that people from everywhere would come and see our museum, because it is one of the first Indian museum to be built throughout the state of California. And the Mono Museum, the Mono Indians own it outright. We do not have any funds from the federal government, state, or county. We own it, and we're very proud when we say the government does not have a hand. And then to the Mono Indian tribe, we really never, most of our people never lived on a reservation. We either lived on Indian allotment lands, or our people went out and went to the World War I and came back and homestead, and this is how we have lived. And years ago, here when I was going to school, it was mostly all Mono Indians going to the North Fork Union School and to the Sierra High, which is over in Toll House, and it was mostly all Indians. But today, we are few compared to everybody here. So this is what I'd like to say, and that also our museum has our greatest or biggest time that we have to raise for our funds for our museum is in the first weekend in August, that we call it Indian Fair Days, and that's one of our big fundraising to keep our museum supported. But all donations, and everyone can become a member, which is $10 a year. So everybody's welcome. Well, first thing I'd like to tell you would be about making our gathering baskets. And this gathering basket is made from redbud. All the sticks, all the lacing is made of redbud sticks. And redbud looks like this. This is the way it looks right today. It already had its red flower blossoms, and it will not be ready to pick for lacing until this fall. And so when the leaves are all off of it, and this would be all plain like this, the young shoots, then our people would pick all the young ones like this. And this is the way they would make their lacing. And they would take it, and right where each leaf was on here, they would take it and split it right there. And then they just hold it in their mouth, part of it, and then just strip it right on down. And then they would hold it back up here and strip it right back down again, another white strip. And then, next thing you know, they'll have a bundle like this of red lacing, red bud lacing in here. And then to make a basket like this, the Mono Indians, I feel, are really well known for making watertight baskets. These are weave, they're coiled, and they're started out, you start out like this to make it. And these straws, lacing here is a white root lacing, and our people today, we have to buy it from other Indians from other areas because our creeks do not run with a lot of water to make the grass grow so we can gather the roots. So we have to buy it. And this is the way it looks. And they have to take it and split it down. And then they take this grass after they have this lacing up there. They take this grass and they shove a few of it in here. And then they take this white lacing and wrap it around and around. And then when they get up here to make their design, like the design in here is black, and it's made from black root. And this is black root, but this black root has to be dyed, and then it will turn black. But the way our people did it years ago, they would take this root and they would go to their spring where there's black mud, and then they would bury it in the mud. And they knew just about how long to leave it there, because if they left it there too long, it would rot. So they had their knowledge of knowing how to get it black and black as they want. And then they strip it down and make it into real fine lacing to be used here in the basket for their pattern. And they gathered it from the bracket fern. And this is the way the fern looks. But they didn't get this part. They took the root of this bracket fern and they have to dig. And they dig down into the ground. And also this fern root has an outer bark, and they take the outside bark off, and then they use the inside. But inside there also is two strips of lacing that looks exactly alike. But our people knew which one to keep and which one to throw away. Also, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about this basket. This basket here is the Mono Indians' cooking basket, and we cook our acorn in it. And when they cook our acorn, our people heat soapstone rocks, and then they put it in here, and then they cook their acorn, and their acorn actually boils right up. And then also, before this watertight basket can hold water, you have to soak it in water first, and then all the fibers swell up, and then it's watertight. And I'm very proud because our people make one of the finest and prettiest watertight baskets, and they were very important to the Mono Indians' life and for their families, such as cooking their acorn in it. And now I would like to also tell you that this is also another little tight coil basket. And it also is made out of the same material as this. But when they make the smaller baskets like this, when they get through cooking their acorn, well then the men folks in the family all would have one like this, and then they would drink the hot acorn from here like that and enjoy their meal. And then sometimes they can make a gathering basket also like this and weave it and make designs in it. And when they have designs like this in it, it's more or less used for personal use, not like going out and gathering their acorn and using this type of a basket. And like now, this stick here is a sowberry stick, and they make this. These sticks can be used in our little, our first baby's baskets. And I have a miniature one here. And our first babies receive a basket like this, and it's made from sowberry sticks, which this is sowberry sticks that is cleaned. But when you go out to gather your sticks, this is the way you'll see the sowberry bush, just like this. But our people wouldn't gather this. They would go out and find a straight stick, and then they would take this stick and then clean it all up, and this is the way it looks. And also, sowberries is very important to our people, this bush. It not only helps us to make our baskets, but it also provides berries, sour berries. And the sour berries serves the Mona Indians like lemons. And right now, we do have green sowberry bushes. Berries are on the bushes as of right now. And to make a basket like this, or even a large burden basket, all these sticks are very, very fine, and they come from the sowberries. And then years ago, baskets like this, which this basket is made from sowberry sticks and the white root lacing. And when our people would go out and gather flower seeds, like if you went out there and gathered flower seeds now and did not have this, and you go out there and hit the flower, the seeds were spread out everywhere, but not go in your container. So the Indians, my people, would go out and hit the flower like this, and all the seeds would fall into the basket. And that's the way they gathered. So this is, if they make a real large one that stands about 2 feet or 3 feet tall, that's a burden basket. And now, chaparral. Chaparral grows all over our foothills here too, just like the redbud. And our people use chaparral in making their baskets, and they make them with little fine sticks that is much longer. But you have to go from bush to bush all over gathering, because one bush does not give you all of these good sticks. And also, when they're going to make their baby baskets for the big babies, they'll go out and gather some real long ones like this, but much longer. And then they use it and weave it across and put it on top of the baby's basket. Like all this little top here is made from chaparral. And then they have another top like this that goes on the bigger baby basket. This is only a miniature, and it goes over here, and then they lay the little sowberry sticks across. And so chaparral to our people is very important also. And it, like I said, they have to be particular in how they gather all their sticks. Because if you gather just any kind of a stick, your work will not look any good. Wouldn't be nice. And now our baby baskets, after they outgrow their little basket, and the mother, the grandmother on the father's side, she's responsible for making that big basket for her grandchild. And if it's a little girl, she makes diamond designs, or she'll make zigzags design. So when you come up to that baby in this basket, you don't have to say, is it a boy or is it a girl? Because that design here will tell you. This basket is made with strawberry sticks and redbud lacing and white root lacing. That's the way our big baskets are made. And then the little basket, it isn't made with sticks going across like the big baby basket. And it has no design, because our people believe that you do not make any designs for the new baby because it's bad luck. You have to wait till that baby is here before you put a design on that basket. And then when years ago, even when I was a baby, they were still doing that. They took this first basket, and the mother would walk far out here in the woods somewhere, and she would find a pine tree, depending what area she's living in, and she would take this bull pine, if this is where in the area where she was living, and she would take her baby basket and she would take it and hang it on that little young pine tree. And our belief is that her baby's going to grow strong like the pine tree. So that's why they would, and leave it there and let Mother Nature take care of it. But today they are very, very precious, and so everybody keeps their basket, and they're very expensive today. All right, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the bull pine. The bull pine is also quite important to our people, depending on what area you're living in, because when our people see a young bull pine growing, a nice straight one, well, they would make our Indian spoon. We only have one spoon, and they take the, like say if this was a young pine, they would cut all this off here and get it all off, and then give it a twist like that. And then this loop in here, of course this is sort of, well, there it is, and it would be like that, and then they would tie it here. And I don't have the milkweed that they would make a string out of, and then they'd wrap it all up here and tie it up, and then they'd bring it here and tie it up. And I have a little miniature one, just a little miniature one, and this is the only spoon that the Mono Indians had that they would stir their acorn here in their basket. Like if they had the soapstone, they would take it and stir it around, get the rock in that loop, toss it out, get more rocks, put it in there. And that's where sometimes, like I said, the Indians would use the bull pine to make a spoon. And because the bull pine does not have no kind of a taste off of it, any bitterness or anything, it's just tasteless, the bull pine. Also from the bull pine, they have their pine cones like this. And our people would go out, and when they see a young one on a bull pine tree, they would gather the young ones, and they would hold it up like this if it was all green, and hit it all off and eat it while it was still green and that all the nut is tender, and they would eat it that way. And then when it's like this, then they would gather their nuts. And when the nuts are ready, they're like, they all will have little red tops on them. like these here. All of these here have little red tops. Maybe I could pour it over here in one of my little gathering baskets here. Maybe that might show you a little bit better. And see all the little red tops on them? That means those are good nuts. And if they don't have the little red top on it, that nut isn't any good. And the shells are very, very hard. But the meat inside is very tasty. Very good pine nuts. So that's what our people would gather. And then also they could dry it and pound it up and make a little flour paste out of it also and eat it that way. So that's how the bull pine is quite important to the Mono Indians. Well, now I would like to tell you about the acorns that our people gather here. And the main acorn that our people gather is the black oak. Black oak grows from here all the way back up into the mountains. And their acorns are quite large and they're nice, fat and round. And our people go to gather the black oak in the fall of the year, and when they're falling off the trees. And then the other acorn that they pick is the white oak. And right now, behind you, all around here, is all the white oaks. Now I know for sure where to come for all the white oak acorn. And our people use the white oak and the black oak, and these acorns, both of them are very bitter. So our people have to leach their acorn. But today I won't go into telling you how our people prepare the acorn and to cook it and all. I won't do that today, but I'll just tell you about how you can identify the oak trees. Because a lot of people say, oh, I have an acorn tree in my yard. Come and pick my acorn. But they didn't realize that the acorn that they had so plentiful in their yard was the black water oak. And that is longer and a large acorn, but it's very sweet. So our people don't use it. And then like right here, live oak. It also has a lot of acorn, but our people don't use it either, and it's a smaller acorn. But if it was very hard times, they may use other acorn, but it has to be when there isn't any acorn at all. And so some people call the white oak acorn blue oak, but to us Mono Indians, we identify our trees to the bark, to the color of the bark, not to the leaves. Where others, I think they identify it because they say the leaves are blue like, so they call it blue oak. But we call it white oak according to the trunk. And so when you see all your white oaks around here, you'll see that the bark on the tree, it is white. And also when there's some black oak, as we drive back out, you will see some real large black oaks in the bark on it. It's all black. So that's how the Mono Indians, we identify our trees. So here's the two kind, but they mix these two together, but they use more of the black oak and then they throw in a little bit of the white. And the white oak from throughout our area, it grows, but it does not grow high up into the mountains, except maybe in certain areas. Like if you went up to Kinsman Flat, you will see some white oak up there, but further back, it's mostly all black oak. So that's what I would like to tell you, so you can identify the white oak, and their leaves are smaller, and like I said, the trunk is white. And then the black oak has nice, great big leaves, and each of these acorns we gather in the fall of the year. Now I would like to tell you about Manzanita. Manzanita is a very beautiful bush. It's very pretty, and It also is very important to our people. Um, we get berries from it. They're green right now, and in the fall of the year, they will be nice and red. And the Mono Indians, when they see the Manzanita bushes or trees around, they just don't walk right up there and say, oh, here's a bunch of berries, let's pick them. They don't do that. They go up there and they sample these berries. And whatever berries are sweet, that would be the one they would pick. And then they make a drink out of it. And they crush it all up when it's dry and let water drip over it slowly and catch it in another container, maybe in a nice coiled basket like this. And then their family has a nice drink. And you might say it might be like their soda water, maybe back in those times. So, and now I would like to tell you about another tree in the cedar. Years ago, our people told us that starting right here in North Fork area, it was just worlds of cedar trees. And our people used the cedar, the bark of the old tree that had already fell down, and they stripped the old bark off, and that's what they would make their winter homes out of the cedar bark. And over at our museum, you will see a cedar bark house. And like for Indians in books or whatever, they call all Indian homes teepees. But people forget that Indians all had their own language, and they had words for their house. And we did not call our house a teepee or a wigwam. We called it Nobi. Nobi in Mono is home. And that's what they made their home out of, was the old bark from a cedar tree that they ripped off. And they used it because it was thick and self-insulated, and it didn't catch on fire right away, and it shed all the water. And they had their winter homes built all around throughout North Fork area, and lived in that through the winter months. And then when they traveled down in the lower part of the country for food and medicines that they needed, they just built light little shelters out of the brush and young willows or whatever was available, and then worked their way on up and back on up into the mountains, and probably back up there in the mountains the cedar bark was more available, and they used it and made their houses up in that area from the cedar bark. And also some people would take the cedar like this and take the peelings, the little leaves off, and boil it up and make tea. And there are some Indians that do not have cedar in their area. They'll come down here and they pick, and they'll make a tea out of it, and it serves like a medicine for them. But I didn't know of too many of our people used it because we had a lot of other things that they had for medicine growing throughout our area. But you had to be a medicine person to know all about that. And now I would like to tell you about the bay leaf. Now the bay leaf, it grows all over throughout our area, and it's just kind of really, it doesn't, I shouldn't say it grows all over real plentiful, because it only certain areas it grows quite a bit, and then in others you might see a bush here and there. But this is the way it looks, and our people also uses it, takes the leaves off, and they use it for medicine, and they just strip it off and boil it, and then also they use it in cooking in their food. And so this is what the bay leaf looks like, and it grows, and you'll see it all along the road as you come on up over here on Road 200. There's a whole bunch of it there. And now I'd like to tell you about mahogany. Mahogany grows all over throughout our area also. No, and it's quite important to our people too, because It grows pretty tall. It can grow into a tree also. But our people years ago would take mahogany, the biggest part of the tree, and the straightest part, and they would trim it up and they would make their bows out of it. And then they would take the younger shoots from the tree, and then they would use that also for their arrows, because mahogany is very, very tough. It's a strong wood. And also the Indian ladies, they would find us one that was a little bit thicker than this, and then they would trim it all up and they would use it for their digging stick when they go out to dig for all these basket roots and things, and they would take it and make a digging stick out of it, and it wouldn't break. It could dig right through that tough ground, hard ground, and right down to their roots. So this is mahogany, and this is what they used here. And like I said, it's all here within our area. And now I'd like to tell you about Fremonte. But mostly my people would say leatherwood. And it grows all throughout our area here. And our people would take the young shoots and clean this all up, and then they would get it and strip it down, the bark on the outside, and make a tie out of it. Use it like a string. And so if they were way out somewhere and they found some wood and this bush was nearby, or they it was on their trail on their way to gather wood or whatever, then they would make the string and pack their wood home by using leather wood. And that grows all around here, and right now it has yellow flowers, so you could identify it and see it all throughout our area. And now I would like to tell you about our elderberry. Now my elderberry, I picked it this morning, but it sure looks awful sick right now. And it has its flower blossoms on it, and sooner, a little later on, it will have its berries. But our people really did not use the berries until later in life, but because these berries are so bitter, and our people didn't have the sugar and things like that. But they used the bigger branches from the elderberries to make their clappers that they would sing when they sing their Indian songs and they beat to the music. And they made that, or they could, in the inside, they carve it out because it's soft. In the center, it's very soft. Then they can make their whistles out of it. So that's what they use the elderberries for. And now I'd like to tell you about some food that our people used to go out and gather, and it used to be very plentiful, and we call it Huya. And Huya is a butterfly, and it comes through our area. It used to come quite often years ago, but now it hasn't been in our area for, oh God, as far as I know, maybe roughly 20 years. And it's it's an orange butterfly that has a black body. And when they come through our area, they always look for this buckbrush, is what I call it, or snowbrush, some people would say. And it has thorns on it and all. And so our people would watch for when these butterflies would come through, and they would see them. But they would look all over throughout the different areas. And when they see all the leaves are ate off of these bushes, then they knew their Huya was right there. Then they would wait a length of time and they'll say, well, I think they're ready to be picked. Then they get their containers together and off they would walk. And these bushes used to grow far out in the boonies, is where they usually go to light. And then when the Indians get there where the Huya is, and to be sure that they got the right worms, caterpillars, they would go up to the bush and they would say, hoo, 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 and the whole thing would shake. even if there was caterpillars down on the ground, it would move and wiggle, and the whole bush would just shake just like this. Then our people would pick and gather. And then when they got all the caterpillars, and these caterpillars are not like the others you see. They have very little fuzz on them. And then our people take them home. They dig a hole in the ground and put hot rocks in there, and they barbecue them all night long. Next morning they bring them up, and then in a basket, something on this order here, and they would lay them out here, out in the sun, and then they let them dry. Then when they dry, they put them in a container where they could keep dry, and wintertime comes along, bring them out, boil them up, tasty. I've ate it, and I know it's really, really good. And so that is one of our foods that we do not get really anymore. But we have heard that they were in certain areas, but not as plentiful as it used to be. And so whenever you see a bunch of bushes that has no leaves on it, well, you know Huya has been there. And also, if you go up and say, hoo, hoo, to other caterpillars, they can't hear you. They just crawl on. But a Huya caterpillar can always hear you. So this is what this snowbrush or buckbrush, this is what it looks like, and that's what they like to lay their eggs and things on. All right, now I would like to tell you about another basket. But our Mono Indian people, I was always told, they learned to make this basket from the Chukchansi tribe. And the Chukchansi tribe, they used this material because it was plentiful over in their area. And it's the wild oats. And they grow nice and tall. And this is green. They when they pick it, it has to be beautiful and nice cream color. But this is the way the wild oats looks today, and it's still nice and green. And they use it in making yarn baskets. So our people learned, I was told, they learned to make it from them. Now, all this shiny material you see underneath the string is wild oats, and that's the color when it's time to pick. And they use a string, any type of a heavy string, and then the yarn, which the Indians didn't have. It came from the other people. And there's a little story that I was told about how the Indians started to use this yarn. And it was like when our boys went out and they, you might say, watched the people go by in their big wagons, and a lady lost her shawl. So the Indian ran down there and he picked it up, and he was so happy, and he whirled it around and round. And by the time he got it back to give to his mother or his wife, it was all unraveled. So they went and they rolled it all up into a great big ball. And they didn't know what else or how to use it. And so then the Indian lady thought, well, I'll take it and weave it into a basket. I got thread, string, and then the yarn. And so she used it. And this is how they came about using it here in a basket. And then later on, they said, well, we'll braid it. And we'll use the yarn in making maybe a headband. And they would make it that way. Then they took the yarn and they made it into a nice yarn belt, in which our people wear and use. And they also, our Mono people take the black and red, or white, well, black and red, and then take white beads and make their ceremonial baskets out of it. But this is how they came about making yarn that their sons or husbands brought home. And that's how they said, well, we'll put it to this type of use. So this is what our Indian people did with yarn in making this, they call it yarn basket, wild oat yarn basket. And this here brush is made from soapwood. And soapwood grows throughout our foothills, but it needs lots of water in order to grow large and have a lot of hair that goes around the bulb. But you have to be careful when you dig for them. And but right here now I have a soap plant. But I'm showing you a soap plant that did not get enough water, because when they have a lot of water, these vines here, their little green just grows way out here, far out, 2 feet or so. And then also it has a flower. Comes up, then the flower can grow to be about 4.5 feet tall, and sometimes they're a little taller. But our people go and they dig down into the ground, and then they get this bulb. And see the hair around it, and see how it's kind of curved here? Well, they get the hair all off. And then our people would peel all the hair off, and when they peeled it all off, then they would take it and dry it. But of course, the hair on here, it isn't any good right now. This hair isn't any good. When they get it, it has to be a bigger bulb, and then it's shaped like this. And then our people would take this bulb here, and then they would bake it. Well, years ago they cooked it and buried it in a hole with hot rocks and all, and leave it there overnight, and that's the way they used to cook it. But today, people put it in their ovens and bake it. And now I heard somebody tell me the other day, they put it in their microwave and they cooked it. But after it gets all done and all, our people, it peels and it has like this. And then when it's all baked, they get their stick and they scrape it, and paste from here comes off. Now when they do this, they would take the hair from around the bulb, and this is the hair here. And then the paste, they make the handle here. And the handle is all around here. But they'll wrap the hair first with string so that this won't come out. And this little brush now is about over 40-something years old. And also, this bulb here, it is kind of oily like. And then our Indian people would use it for soap. It doesn't make a lot of lather, but it has its own kind of an oil. And so it is very good for your skin, and it's gives a real good shine when you wash your hair, and it's just a very good soap. But like some people like to have a lot of lather, but this doesn't give a lot of it. But also the Indians use it for their soap. So this is what we and how we use our soap plant. And now I would like to tell you about a medicine, Yerbacinda, and it grows all around throughout our mountain area. And right now it has a lot of pretty little purple flowers. And the leaves are sticky. They're very, very sticky. And our people use this. It's an everyday common medicine. Like if you went to the drugstore and said you want to buy cough medicine or aspirins or anything like that. Well, this is the way it was for the Indians. All Indian families knew this medicine, and they knew that how to use it to give to their family. And what they did was they boiled it. And if you can stand the tea from boiling the leaves all up. It's a very, very strong tea and bitter. It doesn't have a very good taste, but it's good for whatever ails you. And so also our people would boil it and all the leaves up, and when they boil it all up, the whole plant in the water, they would get the leaves out, and if their knee was hurting them, they would hold it there and help to heal their sore, wherever they have a sore part or wherever they're aching or hurting, and they would use it like that. And then if they were hurting and sick inside, then they would drink the juice. And so this is Yerbacinda, and it grows all over in our area. And so I hope it never stops growing, because some of our people still use it. So this is one of the Mono Indians' medicines. Now, this one I'm going to tell you about. I had a little sore throat to start out here today, and I put these leaves in my mouth to keep my throat from getting dry, and it also helped my sore throat out. But this is called wormwood, and it grows throughout our area, and it grows mostly where there's water. And it's also used in our ceremony that we have, our religious ceremonies, and also it is a medicine. You can put the leaves, like I did, within your mouth and get the moisture from it and swallow it. You could boil it up like a tea and drink the tea, and it's also bitter. You have to drink a little bit at a time, and it's also good for whatever you, how you feel in the inside. It helps to flush you out, and helps to purify, and helps you to get well. And also, when we lose our people, when they die, all of the family and people who belongs to that Eagle clan or Coyote clan, they all get their face wash when they lose their family. And our people boil it up, and then everybody comes through and you get your face wash to keep all the spirits away, so their spirits won't come back and bother you. And it will make your skin feel so smooth and soft. And also, if you have a lot of grease on your skin, it's good to use it and wash with it. And now today, some of our people are going into Indian sweats, and they use it. And I have gone into Indian sweats, and I've used it. And when I go in and they put the water over the hot rocks, and the heat is so hot. So what you do is you take in wormwood with you, and then when that heat comes, put it up over your face. And the leaves are cold. They keep you cool. And so that will protect you from the heat. And then when you are perspiring in there, you take the medicine and waddle it on up and treat yourself on your shoulders, in your arms, your hands, wherever. And put some in your mouth at the same time too. And you can also help wherever you are hurting, your arthritis, whatever. But it doesn't cure it, but it makes you feel better. And so this is the Mono Indian medicine that is our main medicine here. And like I said, I use it quite often, and I used it today. And like I said, if you were out walking and you were getting overheated and you saw this on the creek, pick it up and put it on you so that it could keep you cool as you walk along. And then some of our people say, if you're going out gambling, take it with you. So I did when I went to go and play bingo. But it really didn't give me any luck. But I got down there safe, and I got home safe and had a good time. So it doesn't give you that type of a luck for gambling, but it is a very good medicine, and it's good for anybody. It's just not an Indian medicine. It's good for all. So I'd like to close now and thank you, but there is a lot of more things here that the Mono Indians do use, and it grows throughout our foothills here, and I would like to see a lot of this to keep on growing, and it hurts us when we see people destroying our redbuds, our sourberry bushes, cutting our oak trees, and the pollution is hurting a lot of things. And it hurts all of our people. And so someday, a lot of our people won't be able to get out and gather materials. And there are few that still can make baskets like this. But even no matter what, all these materials have to be preserved somehow. And I hope people will learn that all living things is the great Creator put it all here. And that we also, the Mono Indians, we say water is far more precious than any gas or oil, because all living things today have to have water. Without water, there is no life. So we hope and pray that the great Creator will give us a little more better rain and snow, and hope that people don't keep putting and building more canals for all the water to run down into, because in man-made ditches the water cannot spread down through Mother Earth to give water for all, and everything will die. So but if they let it run through our creeks and streams, everything then can survive, because water is going down in the ground to provide for all. And so I thank you.